In this video, I'm breaking down the top 10 lessons I've learned in 2025, having read 45 thriller novels and interviewed 27 of the authors who wrote them. We talked about the process that it took to write some of the best-selling and award-winning novels of 2025. Here are my top 10 lessons. Almost every author I interviewed had a solid support network behind them. Whether it was a wife or a husband or daughter or son, there was someone in their corner that they often said they would not be where they are if it wasn't for that person in their corner. Of course, you don't have to get hitched in order to write a thriller, but it does help to have a support network, someone behind you that you can bounce ideas off of, that is holding you accountable to the next steps in the process, whether that's writing or editing or finding beta readers, and maybe most importantly, your biggest cheerleader. The most common piece of advice from authors was to write. And this one is pretty global, and I think everyone can agree. If you're not sitting down to put words on the paper, you are probably not going to finish your book. All the authors I talked to, when asked what advice they would give someone who even just published their first or second novel, it is write the next novel. Keep writing. Some of the best writers in everyday life are always looking for story moments. Most people, when they go through their life, they don't stop to think, I wonder why that person did what they did. What if this happened in this situation? How could that possibly impact this? What is that person going through? Good writers are always scanning the world for characters, for plot, for moments. This is why when they say, where do your ideas come from? Most of the authors I interviewed, the ideas came from just everyday life and a moment that popped into their head where they thought, I wonder what if. Be flexible. You might be a writer who loves to outline, to put the story in their head first and write all the chapters, come up with all the ideas, and then the story just flows when they write it. On the reverse side, you might be a pantser who just builds the story as it comes. You have an idea and you sit down and you just start writing that idea. You put a character into a scene and you see what happens. Those are two extremes, but be flexible. In any book can be written in any way. You can try one and realize it doesn't work, try the next method. A lot of the authors that I interviewed, although some of them are extreme in one method or the other, many of them were fluid and it changed depending on the book that they wrote. Let the first draft be whatever it's going to be. Some writers that I interviewed were able to do fairly clean first drafts, send it to their editor, do a couple more drafts, and they were done. Some, like me, take a lot more time in later revisions and do revision after revision after revision. What a lot of writers have in common is that we don't put the pressure of having a perfect first draft out there because it's just too much. Let the first draft be what it is. It's probably going to be ugly. It's probably not going to be your best writing, your best work. The characters might fall flat in moments. You may not quite hit the character arc. You may not set things up properly in the first round. And then when you got into a later book, you know you have to go back and fix it. That's all okay. Get the first draft down on paper. In all the interviews I did, a lot of the authors, though they had different processes in how they handled the first draft, they all didn't put a ton of pressure on themselves to get the first draft done because they knew in rewrites that is where the real power and magic of making the story come to life happens. Be consistent. Some writers write in the morning, some in the afternoon, some in the evening, some on weekends. Everyone has their own way of doing it. Of course, what they have in common is that they all write. You have to carve out time. We already mentioned you have to continuously write, but continuously, consistently showing up is really important to not only getting the book done, but into building a long-lasting passion for writing and more stories. Because you can sit down in a month or two and write a book, but if you haven't mastered consistency, it may be the only book that you write, and ideally, you're going to be writing a lot more than one book. Let book one go. This is going to hurt new writers, especially because we all hoped when we wrote our first book that it was going to be the one that gets out there and that helps us make our millions. But in reality, the majority of writers, that even the ones that I interviewed, book one was not the magic bullet that helped them build the career that they wanted to. Most of them put book one away and would never show book one again. Yes, there are outliers, and there were some authors who have published the first full novel that they ever wrote, but most of the time, it's novel 2 or 3 or 4 that they felt was good enough to actually publish. So when you're done book one, you can sit back and relax and decide, is this the story that I want to publish, that I want to send for traditional publishing, or do I want to write the next story given the new skills that I've built over that time? Almost every author I interviewed had very human characteristics within their stories. Characters who are struggling with post-traumatic stress, family issues, guilt, fear, all those things they put into the story that made it so much more real and human. And I think from a character point of view, that is a very powerful thing to have in your story. Thrillers aren't just about explosions. Yes, it does depend on your genre. Spy thrillers, action thrillers, probably more explosions, a little bit less on the character side. So know your genre and what you intend to write and stick to some of the convention there. But try to make your characters feel human. Human emotions, human things have happened to them. They're struggling with human things, not just the main plot. Again, we all hope that we are going to be one of the 1% who get their books out there and it goes huge and we make our millions and are known worldwide and get a Netflix documentary made or a Netflix movie made based on our book. But that is very, very rare compared to the number of people that are publishing. That's why it's called the 1%. Getting to be that 1% involves just a lot of luck, a lot of being at the right place at the right time with the right book and the right genre. And you can't time these things. Even traditional publishers are always putting out books they hope are going to blow up, but they never really know which ones are going to, because there's no possible way to tell. So plan for a long career of writing and putting out books and finding fans that just love your work and building your own little fandom. Luck is probably not going to be on your side. Love the process and do whatever you want. Writing a book is hard. Publishing a book is harder. Marketing a book is the hardest. Of course, there are outliers for all of these. There are people who love marketing or are doing fantastic on TikTok in certain genres, of course. But it's really hard, especially if you don't love marketing and you just love being a writer. It's a lot of work no matter what avenue you try to take. So love the process of writing, because you will not make it in this industry. There are so many easier ways to try and make a few bucks than by being an author. It is a very difficult method of becoming rich and famous. Ask yourself, if the money was never in the equation, if nobody ever read your book other than your immediate friends and family, would you keep writing? The answer should be yes. Maybe you wouldn't be writing for publication. Maybe you wouldn't be putting your own money into it. Maybe you wouldn't be sending it off to a traditional publisher, but you would still be writing. That should always be your answer. Love what you do. Love the process. It is the best way to be successful as an author, because just by writing, you're successful. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, of course, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications that my next video is coming out. Drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of these 10 and if any one of the 10 really stuck out to you. And if you want more insights from all the authors that I've interviewed, check out the playlist at the end of the video, it has all the interviews that I've done in 2025, and we'll continue to build into season 2 in 2026.